and this video is the first in a two-part series of DIY back-to-school supplies, where I show you how to take your school supplies from boring to beautiful using ribbon. In this first tutorial, I'll show you how to make these gorgeous silk ribbon-covered notebooks, and I hope you enjoy. For this project, you'll need some solid colored notebooks, some nice wide ribbon. This gorgeous silk ribbon was sent to me by May Arts Ribbons, who are sponsoring this video. You'll also need some scissors, Fabri-Tac glue, and I only recommend using Fabri-Tac with silk because it won't soak through. You'll need something to spread the glue with, like a sponge brush or some plain old popsicle sticks. If you don't have a solid color notebook, you can always just spread a thin layer of Elmer's glue onto a regular composition book and then cover it with some plain brown paper, or like I'm using here, a plain brown paper bag. Simply press it into place and then glue the other side. When the whole thing is dried, just trim off the excess and your plain notebook is ready to go. To make this first notebook, you'll need to measure how many widths of ribbon you'll need to cover both the front and the back of your notebook. I'm just moving this one over and figuring out how many I need to lay side by side, and then cutting one a little bit longer than the length of the notebook and using that one to cut the rest of my pieces. I ended up needing 12 of these lengths, and I did want them to hang over the edge just a little bit so that I could trim them later, and I knew that I wouldn't run out of any length of ribbon. Once you've cut all of your vertical lengths of ribbon, repeat the same process with your horizontal measurements of ribbon. These are going to be interwoven together, so for the first piece of ribbon, you're going to be laying out all of your horizontal pieces and then weaving a vertical piece into your book. Start by laying everything out just to see how it's all going to go together. Basically, you're going to alternate which ribbons are on top or underneath of your vertical ribbon. And the first thing you're going to glue is a corner. You're going to focus really intensely on gluing the edges of your book, otherwise the whole thing will sort of just come undone. So what I'm doing first is using that bottom ribbon that I'm not gluing in place just as a marker for where to glue the second ribbon. Then I'm laying out the third ribbon as a marker and gluing down the fourth ribbon. And you can use these foam brushes to spread out your glue, or if you prefer, you can use a popsicle stick, which is what I ended up doing because I think it just spreads the glue a little bit better. And make sure you're getting that glue right up onto the edge of the notebook because you don't want your ribbon peeling up and away as you use your notebook. So make sure you get a good generous amount on there, and once you've glued down the three bottom pieces of horizontal ribbon, then you're going to apply more of your glue over your ribbon that you've already glued down, right up onto the edges of your notebook, and lay down your first vertical piece of ribbon. Make sure that you line it up exactly with the edge of the book because you're not going to be trimming this piece the way you'll trim the other ones that you've already glued down. Once you've pressed that into place, make sure you get the corners really good and glued into place because these are going to take a lot of wear, and you want to make sure that the ribbon and glue are going to stand up to everyday use. Then once you've glued down that corner piece, you can glue on the other horizontal pieces of ribbon that are going to go over your first vertical ribbon. I hope you're still following me. I'm trying really hard to explain this clearly, but the best thing to do is really just lay out all of your pieces of ribbon and take a good look at how it all goes together. Basically, you get the hang of it once you start working this pattern with your hands, and it's just going to overlap and alternate like a lattice pie crust. So you've glued your first three horizontal pieces on the bottom layer, then your vertical piece in the middle, and then your three other horizontal pieces on the top. And once you've done that, you're ready to move on to the next row. So you glued these pieces underneath everything, so those horizontal pieces are the ones that are going to be folded over and out of the way as you glue down your next vertical piece. I hope this makes sense. Put the piece in place and then fold back your other horizontal ribbons, and you'll see how it's all starting to come together. You'll want to glue down whatever ribbons are touching the cardboard first, and then glue any other ribbons on top of those. Any ribbons that are along the very edge of the notebook are what you really need to focus on gluing down securely. Everything else in the center of the book doesn't really need to be glued down, but I glue every single piece down just because I think it helps everything lay flat and keeps anything from getting off track or skewed by any kind of measurement. And just keep following this exact same pattern over and over until you cover the entire front side of your notebook. Once you get to the very centerpiece of your notebook, you're going to start gluing onto the spine. You don't want to have the notebook laying flat and glue this ribbon in place because then you won't be able to close the notebook. So only glue it on to the front side of the book. Don't glue the entire ribbon down yet. Just glue on the right side of the spine to start with. And then flip your notebook over, apply the glue to the spine and to the other side of the notebook, and then you can fold all of your ribbons over with the notebook shut so that you know it's not going to bounce back open once everything dries. And once that is glued into place, simply continue the exact same pattern across the entire back side of your notebook. Once you've covered the entire backside of your notebook, let everything dry for at least half an hour, and then take some fabric scissors and trim off your excess ribbon around the entire notebook with the inside of the notebook facing up. And that's all there is to it. For your next notebook, begin applying a little bit of Fabri-Tac to the upper right corner of your notebook, and then apply your ribbon diagonally across the corner. You're going to have the whole thing running diagonally in pattern. There aren't going to be any straight lines on this project, so this one is much easier than the other one. Once you've glued that first piece in place, cut off the excess ribbon along the top line, but don't cut it exactly against the edge of the book. You'll want your ribbons to hang over, and you'll trim all of the excess at the end. Then take the next piece, and since that line follows the top edge, simply lay it out the exact same way to minimize wasting your ribbon, and apply it the exact same way, keeping the pattern going across the entire front of the notebook. When you get to the point where it starts to curve around the back of the notebook, do the front side first, then flip it over, apply the glue to the back side, and press the ribbon into place. You'll want to make sure you do any type of gluing or wrapping over the spine with the book closed, otherwise you won't be able to close the book if you have it laying open and flat when you apply the ribbon. Again, let everything dry for about half an hour and then go in with your fabric scissors and trim off the excess. And those are your finished notebooks. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch the second video in this series, hit that like button and subscribe, and follow me on social media at Katrinaosity.